Hey everybody, welcome to my video blog where I'm going to try and answer the questions that I've received via Facebook in regards to Jesus and the Bible, Christianity, culture, and what have you. I received a lot of questions and I thank you all for them. I'm not going to be able to do them all in this first video blog, but I'm going to try and keep doing these so that we can try and talk about some of the questions that you have. So if I don't get to your question in this video blog, you can look for it in some of the subsequent ones. So let's just jump right on in. I want to try and keep the clip short. One of the questions that I received, and I got a couple of them that were pretty much in the same vein, was where do Christians get the audacity to try and impose their religious convictions or spiritual beliefs on other people through influencing legislation? And that's a pretty common discussion that people are having today, especially with the gay marriage debate and these type of things. The reality of it is that everybody has some sort of faith-based assumptions, whether they're traditional religious beliefs, whether they're non-traditional religious beliefs, whether they're non-religious secular beliefs, and we all bring those into the public sphere. I think for a lot of people, we've come through a time where it was kind of that post-enlightenment mindset that says that I can give you an assessment of the world and of morality that's non-biased, and so they come and they say, well, we need to separate religion and public policy and these things, and my view is the only view that's unbiased or is not religiously motivated, and the reality is that's just not true. In a free country, you're going to have people who find their beliefs in traditional religions. You're going to have people who find their beliefs in non-traditional religions. You're going to have people who find their beliefs in non-religious philosophical beliefs. And no one in a free country deserves a vantage position, a privileged position. And so when somebody comes and says, well, I don't believe in God, and therefore my beliefs should be privileged or they're right. See, that's being exactly how you think it's wrong for someone else to be. If someone has traditional religious beliefs, then they bring that into how they look at morality and laws. If someone has non-traditional beliefs, we all have a bias, and so in a free country, everybody's going to bring in their beliefs, whether they be secular beliefs, whether they be religious beliefs, non-traditional religious beliefs. So really, everybody has the audacity to have beliefs, and that's the beauty of a free country. And the beauty of a free country is also where we get to learn how to navigate all these differing beliefs and try and find a way that works the best for humanity. But to say that Christians are, have some sort of a, overarching gumption because their religious convictions will fuel how they look at the world, that everybody does. You do, I do, we all do, and so that's the beauty of a free country. But I think what's interesting is now we're starting to come out of a time where people see that privileged belief that, people are starting to realize that they have a belief that they want to be privileged as well. And so it's not just on the religious side of things, it's on the secular side of things as well. So that's how I look at that. Another question was a question in the Bible. It says that God desires obedience and rather than sacrifice, and if I could explain that. And so in the context, pops up in Isaiah and in the Psalms, there was the temple and they did offer animal sacrifices, and like in any belief structure, it's really easy to go through the motions of a spiritual discipline, but not really have the heart behind it. So the prophets were speaking to the fact that the people would go and they would offer their animal sacrifices, and it was just a religious formality. And God is saying, look, I'd rather have you have an obedient heart to me than to offer these animal sacrifices. And it's interesting because they're offering animal sacrifices in the Old Testament and in the New Testament when Jesus walked on the earth. But we still have that today where people kind of just go through the religious formality of doing something, but their heart isn't engaged at all. I know for me, I was, my early upbringing, there was some religious formality that was going on, but my heart wasn't engaged at all, and I definitely wasn't being obedient. And so it really speaks to hypocrisy. It's easy to do religious calisthenics, but it's a whole other thing to really have a heart that obeys God. And I think that if a heart that will obey God, you'll still do those spiritual disciplines, those spiritual calisthenics, but your heart will be engaged behind it. And so that's what Isaiah and in the Psalms, that verse is speaking of. Another question, and it's kind of a hot button question as well within Christianity, was what's my belief on free will, or the idea of predestination. And for me, the crux of the problem is that for us as humans, and we experience time linearly. We know because of quantum physics and different things that time isn't linear. Just we experience it that way. And so for us as humans, we experience time. The sun comes up, the sun goes down. It's a day. But for God, and if you don't believe in God, if you can imagine an all-knowing God who exists outside of linear time, He sees the beginning and the end as if it's in the ever-present now. Now, I use those words. I can't really quite fathom what that means in experience. But the issue of predestination, it's really an issue of humans' finiteness trying to fathom infiniteness. And so I believe that all things are predestined by God, and I also believe that humans have free will. And scholars have spoken about this as the two wills of God, where God could will one thing and at the same time He could be willing the exact opposite, and how that plays out. And you can see it in things like where, with Pharaoh, where God was willing that Pharaoh would let the people go, but then Pharaoh was hardening his heart and God was hardening his heart, and so God is simultaneously wanting and not wanting the same thing. So I really believe in the sovereignty of God, the predestination of all things, and also that we all get to make decisions. How that ends up playing itself out on God's side of the wall and on His knobs, and on my side of the wall and my knobs, I don't really know. I just know that I'm called to do what I know is right before the Lord, and I'll trust that the decisions that I make were predestined by Him, and if I'm wrong, He's going to show me that. So that's my views on predestination, the quick and dirty version, I guess. And then the final question, because I'm already 7 minutes into this, great question. If Jesus was in a rock band, what instrument would He play? And as a bass player, I know that answer, of course, is he'd be a bass player. Why? As they say, everybody follows the bass player. So thanks for listening. Feel free to comment on this. I definitely didn't answer everything as completely as I could have, and so I'm looking forward to the discussion. God bless you guys. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.